Hello, I'm Crickets and welcome back to I Have a Story. I'd recently talked about how my son, who went missing for 2 years, got in contact with me again. And talked to him about some of the things that took place throughout his childhood and the abuse and a lot of that aspect of things. He said that what I did that upset him the most was I got married again. He always wanted it to just be me and him. And a couple aspects of this. One, I always made it about him. I had dated women, a handful of them, that after just a few weeks of dating, well, I want to meet your son. I'm not ready for that yet. It takes time before I can introduce a woman that I am dating to my child. The only time I ever actually brought women around my son that I was dating was when they had children his age for him to play with, and that's part of being a parent. As much as I wanted to spend time just my son and I also wanted him to have friends. I had women who I broke up with or they broke up with me because I would not just instantly bring them around my son. And when you already have a biased court schedule of Wednesday and every other weekend, that's not much time to get to be a parent and raise your child or spend time with them, especially when you have to work. And even more so when I had my business and I was working just nonstop, and trying to put my schedule around when I did have my child. I even quit a job because I was working second shift and I'd never get to see my kid. I couldn't have that. I refused. I would rather make less money and be dirt poor, which, thanks to these systems charging me illegal sums of child support, I was already buried to begin with. I just, part of why I hate money. Who cares about the money? It's supposed to be about my kid. That's not the way the world works anymore. Now it's all about money, and the kids come somewhere down the line. For me, my kids came first in my life. So there was only ever two women that I can even remember dating over. My divorce was in 2007. There was only ever two women I ever introduced my son to, and that was after I had dated them for a period of time, several months, and they had children for my son to play with. Except for my second wife, which I'll get to in a minute. The, the only other woman that I introduced him to was the one that I talked about, where once I started taking my son over to her house, I did the right thing as a parent again and told his mother, look, I'm dating this woman. She has kids. I'm taking our son over there. Well, where does she live? Well, this is where she lives. It shouldn't be a problem to tell you where your kid's going to be at, our kid's going to be at, what's going on. We're supposed to. I did everything that I thought was supposed to be right. But that was also the same woman that my first wife shows up at her house when she knew I was at work and walked straight in that woman's front door and started going through her house. The same woman that when I introduced my first wife to her after we were divorced and said, here, I want you to meet her. I did everything I was supposed to do right. She didn't do that. Oh yeah, she couldn't do that with her husband because she was one of the guys she was cheating on me with. I had friends sending me pictures of while I was at work while we were still married of his truck in the driveway. So much pain and all of this, and all I wanted was the American dream, which turned into the American nightmare for me. And that woman broke up with me because she said she's not putting up with that. She's not going to be threatened and have a woman showing up at her house and causing the problems that oh my God, it's insane. My second wife, I didn't just meet her and fall in love. She was my childhood sweetheart. We grew up as kids together. And I did not know about bipolar, mental illness, even though my first wife was also diagnosed bipolar. I don't know how I got so lucky to marry two of them. Seems to be becoming more predominant in this country anymore, that mental illnesses, and I don't know if it's just because now it's more well known and we get to see more of it, or if it's actually grown to an exponential rate compared to what it used to be. Come here, Mr. Bubbles. Come on. I know you want my lap. Come on. You want to come say hi? You hear me talking. You think something's going on. Come here. All right. There's Mr. Bubbles saying hi. So talking to my son, he said the biggest thing I did that upset him as a father was that I got married again. Now, other aspects to this is I only had my son Wednesday every other weekend, and months and months and months at a time where his mom would just keep him from me because she can. She could. Didn't matter. Courts don't care when you're a father in these systems, which is absolute BS, especially when that son was drugged, abused to a severe extent, to have lifelong health complications because of it. And even though I had doctor's reports, I had recorded incidences of him being punched by his stepdad. Several conversations where he was on the phone and somebody, mom or stepdad, would walk into the room. Who are you talking to? My dad. And just, my God, what that kid had to go through because these court systems don't care. And then he got to get abused again by my second wife to a severe extent. Again, I tried. I mean, geez, when you call 911 because you're being abused, I aired one of those calls. There's been many of them. You even hear her saying there, "What are you doing calling 911 again?" While I'm holding my 3-year-old daughter in my arms while she's hitting me and punching me, throwing handfuls of rocks at me and the kids. But that's the parent who should be in charge of the children and exclusively exclude the father and have sole. God, what have those kids been through? Our systems don't care. None of them. So my son said the biggest thing I did was that upset him was I got married again. And I don't believe I ever would have if it wasn't for the person that I ran into, which was my childhood sweetheart. And I can honestly say I truly loved that woman. I did not love my first wife. I got trapped into that marriage too. Some more stories to bring yet. But I was lonely, going months without my kid. Found a woman that I truly loved, who had kids that were my son's age. And I really loved those children. They were great kids. As messed up as they were messed up because of the abuse they suffered from their parents. I even found the kid who took his own life, and I found his diary written in his own handwriting. I held my stepdaughter while she cried because she could not turn to either of her parents with problems that they had. That she had because she didn't trust them to be able to not abuse her for her problems. I also wanted to give my son a family and not just me. None of it would have ever gone the way it was if it wasn't for all the problems these women caused. And our systems who allowed it to happen. Empowered it and then caused more abuse themselves. God, there's so much I could say, and I don't even know. I'm trying not to start crying and start going down rabbit holes. But he told me that the thing I did that upset him the most was that I got married again. Obviously now you see what it's done to me and what it's done to him.